confirm before we start, if I can ask our media person. Nothing, no bench conferences are being transmitted, am I correct? No? Okay, I wanted to make sure that all right. Anything before we start back?
Judge, Ms. Bennett let me know that she was on the elevator with a couple of jurors and they were just talking about how the case was going, but she said she didn't speak to them and there's nothing. I don't have any, I believe her, and I know she would never try to influence anybody, so I'm going to let the court know. I am aware of it and I have no objection.
And they didn't say anything about evidence or whatever. They just, yeah, it wasn't like that at all.
Okay. All right, so thanks. So noted for the record. We'll leave it as it is. Okay? All right, bring in jury. Seated. You can call your next witness.
The state calls Bennett Bliss.
Next to me is Smith up here.
Take a seat. Just pull up so that you're close enough to that microphone right there on the right and we can hear you. All right, will you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll provide in the matter not pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, can you state and spell your name, please?
Danette Fliss, Danett Fliss.
And do you know the defendant in this case, James Hill?
I do.
How do you know him?
He used to date my daughter,
And who is your daughter?
Amber Stinchcomb Land,
When did her and the defendant date?
approximately 10 years ago,
And how long did they date for?
about 6 or 7 months.
And I'm going to draw your attention to, well, okay, I'm going to back up for a second. So they dated 6 or 7 months, and then they were not together for a year or so time period, correct?
Correct.
And during that time, was the defendant, he left social circle and was not living in social circle, excuse me, right?
Correct.
Okay. And later when he returned, it's your understanding he called her at that time, right?
He did.
All right, and so now I'm going to draw your attention to sort of that time frame back in May of 2010 when he's back and he's communicating with your daughter. Was there a particular night where she woke you up in the middle of the night and she was kind of out of sorts?
Yes, she did.
If you tell me about what you remember happening.
She come running in around 2 o'clock in the morning. She woke me up and told me that Jim had just attacked her.
And what was her appearance like then?
She had busted blood vessels all across her neck. Her clothes and panties were down.
You say down, I mean, can you describe how they were positioned?
They were, her panties and her pants were all down below her knees.
Okay. When you saw her,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
they were off of her?
Yes.
Down? Okay. And
She was trying to pull them up
Okay, so she was pulling them up.
when she come running in.
Okay. And what was her, was it like her demeanor? Was she scared or what?
Yes, ma'am. She was very frightened, shaken, upset, crying.
Okay, she was crying. And what did you do when you saw her in that state?
I jumped out of bed and I ran downstairs and got my son.
And who's your son?
Casey Stinchcomb.
Was he asleep as well?
He was.
So when you woke him up, what happened?
He jumped out of bed, grabbed a stick, and me and him went looking for Jim.
Where did you go to look for Jim?
We went outside and across our street, there's a little patch of woods, and he was hiding in the woods right there.
Did you and the defendant or did you and Casey actually see the defendant then?
Yes, we did.
And did Casey and the defendant get into a tussle?
They did.
Did the defendant, around the time that's happening, make any statements to you, to Casey, or just out loud statements?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
What did he say?
I asked Jim why he attacked her, and he told me he didn't know, but he would probably do it again.
And at the time that that happened, did you talk to law enforcement and provide that same information to them?
I did.
And did the defendant make any other statements in regards to Amber or her condition?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
As he was running away after the tussle with my son, I said, Jim, you just attacked Amber. And he said, I know, but the bitch is still breathing.
And then he ran away, and you guys did not see him later that evening or that week, correct?
No, we did not.
All right, I don't have anything.
Your witness?
No question.
All right, then we step down.
Thank you.
Is she released?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Call your next witness. Put your government all the way. Stay in the room if you like. Call next witness.
The state calls Thomas Marshall. You may take a moment to get him to the courtroom, Judge. Are you Thomas Marshall?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that testimony you'll provide in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
If you state and spell your name.
Thomas Marshall, T-H-O, M-A-S, M-A-R-S-H-A.
Okay, all right. And I just want to be sure, because sometimes you can be a little soft-spoken. If you just speak up, make sure you're speaking into that microphone there on the right, actually, is the one that lets everyone hear. So we can be sure to hear everything you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And how do you, or do you know the victim in this case, Kelly Marshall?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know her?
That was my wife.
And how long have you been with Kelly Marshall? Or how long have you known Kelly Marshall, Mr.?
About 14 years. We was together about 13.
13 years? Was that a sort of on-again, off-again relationship, or how did it work?
We was pretty consistent, but I was locked up for a second. We always stayed in contact. That's my best friend, my wife.
And so you were officially married, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your wedding anniversary date?
August 11th,
August 11th,
2008.
2008? When was the last time that you yourself actually saw Kelly?
She came and visited me at Rockdale County Jail before I went to prison in 2015 or 16.
Was that the year that she died, or was it the year before?
The year before.
And when you were incarcerated in prison, were you still in contact with her though?
Yes, ma'am. I actually had a cell phone and we talked pretty frequently.
Okay. Alright. Not supposed to have cell phones in prison, but that's what people do, right? And then they communicate with loved ones that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, and then you do have, so I guess we discussed this, you're in prison, so you have some felony convictions, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
In the past decade approximately? And what are those? Just go ahead.
Possession of firearm by convicted felon. And I have prior drug charges, possession with intent, marijuana, for burglary.
Burglary. And those were here in Newton and Rockdale counties?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were in prison when Kelly died, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you actually parole out? How long after her death was it?
It was about 7 days after she died.
And to your knowledge, was Kelly in contact with your parole officer and attempts to sort of facilitate your release as quick as possible?
Yeah, she was. I actually didn't believe her because she kept on calling me. She was like, "You got parole out." I was like, "How you know I'm about to parole out?" And I didn't even know I was about to parole out. But she would contact them. She messaged me on Facebook. She was like, "I got some good news. You're gonna be home. You're coming home. You're gonna parole out to my grandma's house and all that." And I was like, "What?" I was kind of confused. I actually called the parole board myself and acted like I was my brother or somebody. And they told me, "Yeah, you got to come home."
And the address you were going to parole out to was
Her grandma's.
her grandmother's address, where she lived? Yes. Okay, sorry, you have to say yes or no because she's writing it down. All right, and is that actually where you initially went once you did parole out?
I did parole out to her house, but I transferred my address as soon as I got out because I didn't want to live there.
Right.
You know.
Okay. All right, and when you did go there in the house, did you go in Kelly's room?
I did go in Kelly's room.
And did you see anything or notice anything odd there?
No, because I mean, one thing I noticed, she had a baseball bat right behind the door, but I went through her room a little bit and really like her dad already organized the room a little bit. One thing that struck me was like I noticed our photo album, our photos and stuff. We had a lot of photos, and it was all broken up and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was like, dang.
And so last time you had seen those items, I guess they had been in fine condition, not broken condition.
Yeah, we had a house together at one point, and she had all my property. She kept them. She kept everything. But she had some of my clothes and stuff like that. I didn't never shed.
All right. And you guys have 2 children together, right?
We
And how old are they?
was 13. Well, she'll be 13 tomorrow, but she's 12, and that's 9-year-old.
And that's Jayla and Traylon?
Jayla and Trey.
And did you get along with Kelly's family? Were you close with them?
That family is my family. I call her mama. I call her Nana, or Aunt Kyle, or Bubba.
Okay. All right, did Kelly actually have a tattoo of your name on her lower back?
Yes, she did. She had Thomas Marshall all the way across her back.
Across her back, across her lower back? And so the last time you saw her, that's what was there? All right.
That's enough on you.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 7. And I know there might be something else over this, but you was in this photo underneath that tattoo. Is that yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And what is it that's underneath that?
says Kelly. It's the Playboy bunny. It's a crown over it. It looks like, I mean, it's a crown over it. You know?
Over what?
Over my name.
Okay, over your name, which is underneath it?
Yes, it's up there. She never told me that she got it covered up.
Okay, oh, sorry, one moment. All right, Your Honor, I'm going to tender State's Exhibit 7. There's no objection.
Can I just point it real briefly? Mr. Marshall, does that appear to be the tattoo that you remember, but just modified a bit?
The tattoo's underneath it,
Right.
I guess we can say that.
The crown is never there.
Right. Underneath that crown that was.
Underneath the crown, it says Thomas Marshall. It said Thomas, the Playboy bunny, and then Marshall.
So admitted, you may publish.
Thank you. All right, and I'm going to just zoom in here so you can point out sort of exactly where that is, without losing focus too much. So, is it right here, up here? You can see the T right there?
Yes.
Is that the T in Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I know it's a little hard to tell, but
It was done in purple.
underneath here is where it is, correct? The bottom part of the crown.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I don't have any further questions.
Your witness, any questions?
Yes, sir, Commissioner. Mr. Marshall, just a couple questions for you. You didn't know James Hill before he started dating Kelly, right?
No, sir.
But sometimes you would call her or the kids and he would answer, right? You spoke to him a few times.
Yes, sir.
In fact, at least one occasion, he sent you some money.
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay, but transferred you some money. So as far as you knew, there was no beef between the two of you.
Whenever she told me about the beef between the two, I was kind of in denial.
Right, it's not, as far as it.
I thought he was an alright guy.
As far as you knew, between you and Mr. Hill, you thought everything was okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you are as you said earlier, you're the Thomas Marshall that pled guilty in the Superior Court of Rockdale County to 3 counts of possession of firearm by convicted felon and theft by receiving stolen property. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's me.
Tender at this time, Judge. Defense Exhibit 1, which is certified copy of that conviction.
No objection.
So admitted.
And you're the Thomas Marshall that pled guilty in the Superior Court of Newton County to possession of cocaine with intent to distribute, possession of Schedule 1 controlled substance with intent to distribute, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, interference with government property around June 2nd of 09.
Yes, sir.
All right, so, and Judge, this time I'll tender defense exhibit number 2, which will certify a copy of those convictions.
No objection.
So admitted.
That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Marshall?
Oh, I just have one question. Yes, Mr. Marshall, you say your relationship was okay, and you didn't think anything was wrong with him. Was that sort of at first, and did your opinion ever change in regards to?
Well, my opinion did change after she told me that he.
Well, don't say what anyone said to you. We can't get into hearsay, but I'm just asking, based on conversations you had later, did your opinion change?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything further.
Oh, Ms. Wood.
The state called Kayla Marshall. And Your Honor, we may need to take up a few matters prior to this testimony. We discussed this morning.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, I need you to retire from the jury just a moment. Take up the man outside the video. Please don't talk about the man. All right. Ma'am, you can wait back outside for 1 second, okay? I'm sorry. Yes, sir. seated. Oh, yeah.
I think this is just in reference to Mr. Carter wanted to get into past abusive relationships through potential possible impeachment with the child when she were to testify.
How old is she?
She'll be 14 tomorrow. Or 13. She'll be 13 tomorrow. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We have the audience now. You guys, all right. Thank you, Grandma. All right.
So I don't have any reason to bring anything up at this point. I think we talked about the way that I intend to handle this witness would be different, so I don't think that I need to do that at this time. And I don't know if she wants to watch or not, but we might need to have her in reserve, you know, to keep her sequestered after she does testify in case something does come up. But I don't know what her position would be on that.
Well, let's get through it first
Right.
before we talk about whether she's released or not.
Yes, sir.
All right, so what you're telling me is that will not be an issue regarding how you will cross her.
I do not have a reason to ask her the question that I
Probed earlier.
I proposed earlier at this point. That's correct. No, I just mean it hasn't been, the door hasn't been open.
All right, and I'm sure Ms. Bennett's not gonna open it. She knows that you're watching doors closely. Ms. Proceeds. All right, anything else? Bring it in. Bring it in. All right, bring it with you. You've been called. Oh, next to me, please.
You raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll provide in the matter now sitting before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, ma'am. All right, Kayla, and you see that microphone right there to your right? That's the one that's coming through the speakers, so everyone can hear you. So be sure you're talking into that one. Do you need any water or anything? You okay? All right. And can you spell your name also for the record?
Jayle.
And last name Marshall is regular spelling?
Are
you sure?
Would the court consider going into a little bit of an extended discussion about
Truth.
the
I'll ponder that as well
Okay.
from that point in time. I'll let you do
You
it.
just
Yeah,
say
go ahead.
All right, Jayla, you're, how old are you?
12.
12 years old, okay. All right, you turn 13 tomorrow, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and so, you know the difference in a truth and a lie? You do? Okay, I know you're kind of smiling, so be sure to talk to that microphone. So if I said, my hair is brown and that's what color it is, it's dark brown, what would that be?
A lot.
A lie. Okay, all right, so I mean, I know you're in middle school already, so you've understood, you've known people lying to you before, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you know the difference, and you know that here today it's really important that you tell the truth, and that you only talk about things that you yourself personally saw and know. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So we're okay with that?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Jayla. We went over your name and your age. Who are your parents?
Kelly Marshall and Thomas Mitchell.
And do you have any siblings?
I have 3 brothers.
And do you have one little brother?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. His name is Traylon. Traylon also your mom's son. All right. And I know it's scary. If you need to, you can pull that microphone a little closer to you. Just want to be sure we can all hear you. I know it's difficult. All right. And do you know the defendant, James Hill?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
He was my mom's boyfriend.
Your mom's boyfriend. And so you met him on multiple occasions,
Yes, ma'am.
you would say? And what did you call him when he was around?
Jay.
Jay. And did you ever spend any time with your mom and the defendant when they were together?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ever see them fight when they were together and you were spending time with them?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that. What did they fight about? Start there.
My dad.
Your dad. Okay. And how did that come about? What do you remember happening?
If my mom would say anything about my dad, he would get upset.
And when he got upset, how did he respond?
They would argue, then he would hit her, then hit him back.
So they kind of both hit each other too, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
And they'd argue verbally, like yell things at each other, that kind of stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember any particular fights or instances of violence that occurred?
We were at Donna's house and they were arguing about something and he choked her. His cousin Michael walked him outside, I think.
Yeah. Okay. When you say you choked her, can you describe a little bit more about where they were, what their body positions were like?
They were arguing in his room and then they were yelling. Then I woke up and when I woke up, he had her against a wall with his hands around her neck.
And did you see any other kind of violence between them?
We were at Lindsay's house and they were arguing. They had had drinks. They were arguing and then he dragged her through the house by her hair and there was blood on the floor, like a trail of blood. And then my Aunt Lindsay started yelling at him, telling him to get out. And then my grandma, Kayla, she also.
So both your grandma and your aunt were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this at their house?
Yes, ma'am.
You said you remember him dragging her by her hair.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever remember hearing the defendant make any threats or say anything serious like that?
When they were at Donna's house, my mom was telling him after they had to stop fighting, they were on the porch and my mom was talking about getting back with my dad and then he was like, you don't have a chance. Neither of y'all have a chance.
That the defendant was saying neither of y'all have a chance?
Like getting back together, I guess.
And when he said neither of y'all have a chance, I mean, was he saying they wouldn't make it in terms of their relationship working? Does that make sense? Or that he didn't want that to happen?
He didn't want
Do
them
you
to.
know? And why do you think that?
Because when she mentioned him, he would get upset.
Do you remember the defendant ever saying anything to your mom about their relationship, his and hers, and him wanting to be with her and wanting her to be with him?
I don't remember.
You don't recall? Do you remember yourself hearing him saying anything about you and your brother?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Do you remember if you ever heard him threaten? I know you said you saw him hurt your mom, but threatened to hurt your mom. Say anything that he was going to hurt her or something.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one instance that you had to call your grandma, not Kayla, but your dad's mom to come in and get you when you were?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you tell me about that incident?
The same time that we were at Donna's, the same time I just told you about. I was sitting on the couch and I told him that if he didn't stop, then I would call the police. And then I dialed my grandmother's number and then I called her to come and get me. And then she came and then she asked my mom, she tried to get my mom to come with her. And then my mom said, no, we're going to the lake later.
And when you said you were going to you didn't call the police, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you ended up calling your grandma. Did anything happen when you said that you were going to call the police?
He said, I wish you would.
He said, I wish you would? Okay, and he say anything else?
They kept fighting.
They just kept
Or
fighting?
I think Mikey locked him outside and then they kept fighting.
Do you recall any furniture or things in the house ever getting broken?
No.
And I'm going to first I'm going to show you what Smart just states. show you as Martha States Exhibit 98. And I've seen this picture before, but go ahead and take a minute to look at that and look at what's on there, and the messages. Okay, do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how do you recognize that?
Donna sent that to me. That same day.
So these are some text messages Donna sent you that day?
Yes, ma'am.
They were fighting that you remember when you called your grandma?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and I know this sounds like a weird question, but is that a fair and accurate depiction of the text messages as you saw them?
Yes, ma'am.
Tender States 98, Your Honor.
Objection. So admitted.
Okay, Jayla, and I'm just, rather than publishing this, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. And Donna asked you, Jayla, with question mark, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You respond, ma'am. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then it says, and Donna says, I heard they were at it again. I just wanted to check on you. Is that right? You said, I'm good. Okay. All right. And then that was on, is that date July 20th, 2017? Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
The day before your mother was found deceased, did the defendant come to your house, your grandmother's house?
Yes, ma'am. I can't remember if it was the day before or the day after. Or if it was that night or that morning.
Okay. Well, tell me about what you do remember when he came by your house around that time.
He knocked on the door and then he asked me if my grandmother was home, and then I said she's in the shower, but she was at work. And then he gave me a stuffed animal, and then he said, this is for me and your mom.
Why did you tell him that your grandma was in the shower when she was really at work?
I was scared of him.
And what kind of stuffed animal was it?
A rainbow polka dot leopard.
And you said it was from him and your mom? And had
Yes,
your mom ever talked to you about that stuffed animal or anything in regards to that gift?
No.
Was she with him at that time?
No.
Do you recall what vehicle he was in?
A green Toyota, I think.
All right, and he didn't say anything else, just gave you the stuffed animal and said it's from your mom and me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I don't have any more questions.
Your witness.
Thank you. Jayla, thank you for being here. I know it's pretty tough, but I'm not going to okay. Just have a few questions for you. During the time that Jay and your mom were together, you got along pretty well with him most of the time, right?
Yes, sir.
You saw his Aunt Donna quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
You actually called her Aunt Donna.
Yes, sir.
You lived with your grandmother, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you had visitations with your mom, a lot of times you would go over to Jay's or to Donna's house instead of where your mom was staying for visitations, right?
Yes, sir.
You felt more comfortable at Donna's house?
Yes, but the only reason I didn't go to where my mom stayed was because they had dogs and their dogs are mean.
Right.
And because she wanted to be with Jay. And
Okay. And so for a while, or at some point, you were comfortable with him, and sometimes you would go visit him and Aunt Donna, even when your mom wasn't there, right?
no, sir.
You never did that? Okay. While after, a few days after your mom passed away, you spoke with somebody from a center, and you gave an interview to her, right? That was recorded. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to look back over that, either the statement or as a transcript of it?
No, sir.
Okay. So the last thing you talked about was that Jay brought you a stuffed animal.
Yes, sir.
And you said it was either the night before your mom was found or the night after.
It wasn't the night after. It was somewhere during, can't remember if it was that morning or the night before it happened or the night that it happened.
You don't know what time at all?
No.
Okay. Tell me again what kind of animal it was.
It was a rainbow leopard.
And are you positive that didn't happen a few weeks or even a month earlier? You're positive that didn't happen earlier?
Yes.
this happened, after with your mom, obviously you were upset, right?
Yes, sir.
And your dad actually came home fairly soon after that, right?
Yes, sir.
And you heard quite a few things from other different people. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Right. Are you positive that you're able to see the difference between what somebody may have told you and what actually happened?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions of her? Any?
I have one follow-up question, Kayla. Do you remember saying that, or where was your brother at when the defendant brought the stuffed animal to your house?
He was in his room.
He was in his room. Okay. Do you know if he was sleeping or if he was?
I think he was laying down.
All right. I don't have anything.
And Jill, just one more thing. When you said Jay brought the stuffed animal the morning that your mom was found, or the night before, you said today that the car was green,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sure about that?
I'm not positive, but I think so. It was kind of dark outside.
Okay. Do you know what kind of car Jay drove?
I can't remember. I think it was that green car, and I think he had another car, a white Cadillac, I think.
Or a white Cutlass, maybe?
Yeah.
So it wasn't the white Cutlass he was driving in on that day that he brought that stuffed animal?
I don't think so.
So it was a green car, it's another green car that he had.
Yeah.
And was there anybody with him?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. If in your statement you did say somebody was with him, you recall that? And,
No.
thank you.
Anything else of her?
No, you're.
All right, step down. Calling you.
Did she be released or did you want?
All right. You may stay in the courtroom if you want. All right. Calling you.
State calls Lindsay Jones. Will you raise your hand, please? Do you swear affirm the testimony you'll provide in the matter not doing before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. State spell your name.
Lindsay, Lindsey, last name Jones, Jones.
And where are you employed?
I am employed at a Boys Child Advocacy Center in Social Circle, Georgia.
What is that?
We are a child advocacy center, and we are designed to meet the needs for children for whom an allegation of sexual abuse has been made, or physical abuse, or they've been a witness to a crime such as domestic violence or homicide. We do forensic interviews, forensic medical examinations, and we also have family advocates as well to provide support to the families. And we do community education and prevention.
And is this center accredited?
Yes, we are both nationally accredited through the National Children's Alliance and state accredited through the Children's Advocacy Centers of Georgia.
And are multiple of these in the state of Georgia?
Yes, there are 50 state accredited.
And in particular, the one that services Newton and Walton County, where is that located?
In Social Circle.
And is your center child-friendly?
Yes, so we are a neutral child-friendly environment for children to come and talk about incidents when there's been an investigation.
And how do you, I'm assuming there are referrals that you guys that
Yes, so we get referrals from law enforcement and the Department of Family and Children's Services.
How long have you worked there and been doing this job?
Since May of 2012.
And describe your duties, I guess, or the description of the forensic interviewer.
I am the program director and a forensic interview specialist, so I assist in supervising our forensic staff. As a forensic interviewer, I conduct interviews on children from ages around 3 up until 18 in the setting of the forensic interview as part of the investigations.
Will you describe your educational background that allows you to do this job?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences with a major in Child and Family Development from the University of Georgia. And then I have a Master of Public Administration from Valdosta State. And then I completed several protocols, trainings, and forensic interviewing protocols. I'm trained in Child First Georgia, as well as their expanded forensic interviewing protocol. I've also been trained in the National Children's Advocacy Center's forensic interviewing of children, as well as their expanded forensic interviewing. I've also been trained in the Cornerhouse's multi-session forensic interviewing.
How many forensic interviews would you say that you've done in the past, including both, alleged sexual abuse, physical abuse, and then witnesses to other violent crimes?
Total, I've conducted over 860 forensic interviews.
And have you been tendered as an expert in the courts of the state before?
I have.
How many times did you estimate?
Over 20.
And, I would tender this witness as an expert in the dynamics of child abuse and forensic interview.
Who qualified?
And can you describe what a forensic interview is, and how it differs from a clinical interview?
Yes, so a forensic interview is a non-leading, non-suggestive way to gather information from a child. It's done in a developmentally appropriate way and a legally sound way. It's different from a clinical interview in that a clinical interview would be to diagnose and treat, whereas forensic interviewing we're gathering the information needed for the investigation.
And do you follow a particular protocol or process when conducting forensic interviews?
Yes, so we do. The protocols that we follow are based on research. And so the protocol starts with building rapport, which is where we orient the child to the room and how we talk. It's also where we get to know the child by talking about school, who they live with, and having them conduct a narrative practice. So research shows you can get the most information by having a child tell you in a narrative versus asking more specific questions. So we practice that in the beginning because it is a different way of talking with children. And then we go into transitioning into the topic of concern, which is where we ask the child what they know, what they've come to talk to us about today. And then once a disclosure has been made, or if a disclosure has been made, then we gather all the information that we can in that same type narrative. And then we end with asking the child if they have any questions for us, or making sure that they have someone that they can talk to if something were to happen to them. We also screen for all types of maltreatment during that process.
Can you describe the room, the particular place where the forensic interview actually occurs?
Yes, so the room is all video and audio recorded as far as the interview goes. It's just the interviewer and the child in the room, and that really helps make sure that the interview is done in a neutral way, and that sometimes kids can fear that there are consequences for what they talk about. So we really want to make sure that they're comfortable when talking about the allegations. We also have some markers and things that they can draw on a fidget spinner. Sometimes that helps calm the children. We also have an observation room where law enforcement and DFACs, if they're involved, that they're observing from a separate room. So like I said, it's all video and audio recorded, and also people are watching it live as well.
In the actual room, though, it's you and the child?
Correct.
And so no caregivers are in here, correct?
Correct.
And no caregivers go and watch in the observation room?
That's correct.
And what are particular concerns that you would have as a forensic interviewer when interviewing children who have witnessed violent crimes?
So we want to make sure, first and foremost, that the children are comfortable. The kids are our first priority at our center. So we want to make sure that we're talking to them in a way that isn't threatening or anything like that. We want to make sure that the children are the ones telling us with their words that we're not introducing anything or leading them in any way, and making sure that they know that it's a safe place to talk.
Are you familiar with the term suggestibility?
Yes. So suggestibility is something that we look out for younger kids, generally under the age of 10, and it's the degree to which one's memory of an event is affected by misinformation or suggested information.
Do you want water? Is that helpful?
Thank you.
And I think you mentioned the age 10 is relevant in terms of suggestibility. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, so generally children over the age of 10 are no more suggestible than adults.
Are you familiar with the concept of coaching?
Yes.
Can you describe that too, please?
Yes, so coaching is also something that we look out for, especially among younger children. If an adult has coached them to talk about things. But generally children that have been coached can't elaborate on details when asked more about that.
And can you describe how the disclosure is made? Whether it be a disclosure from what a child has witnessed or even in the other cases?
So disclosure can be a process. Most of our cases we deal with is sexual abuse, but it also applies with other forms of violence. domestic violence, physical abuse, because a lot of times the alleged perpetrator is known to the child in the family. So that creates a lot of difficulties in how and when the child discloses. In the beginning, a child may kind of give out bits and pieces of the information, and that's just to kind of test the waters and see the reaction of people around them. They may even deny the abuse at first because they're not quite ready to talk about it. And then once they see that they're getting support from their family, they may feel more comfortable to then talk about more, which puts them in more of an active disclosure. There are certainly times and risks that children can be blamed for what's happened or the changes, and so that can cause them to recant what they said. And that's not to say that it didn't happen. It's just that they kind of want things to go back to what they thought was normal and how things used to be.
And what about particular dates that things may have occurred? Is that sometimes difficult for children to process, especially in comparison to adults?
Yes, so the way that our brains developed, children's brains are just quite developed to remember concepts of time, and they don't have really a frame of reference for that sometimes. So just like, we also remember things as it happened at that age. So say the abuse happened at 6 years old, but the child is recalling the information, talking about it at 16. They're going to remember it as a 6-year-old would, which is less information, and they're not going to remember it as a 16-year-old, and that's how our brains encode those memories.
Along those same lines, when children then come in to testify in front of groups of strangers, are they more likely to minimize or be afraid essentially and talk about less?
Children can feel uncomfortable talking about allegations of abuse or incidents of abuse in front of strangers and things like that, and in front of a lot of people.
All right, and did you conduct a forensic interview with Jayla Marshall?
I did.
And was that in August of 2018?
Correct.
Was that interview was recorded, correct?
It was video and audio recorded.
You guys had those cameras you described. And can you describe what Jayla's, we're not necessarily playing that video, but can you describe what her demeanor was like when she was there being interviewed?
Jayla appeared comfortable when talking with me. She gave a lot of narratives about certain information and different incidents. When we talked, she seemed open talking with me and was talkative throughout the interview.
Do you recall how old she was at the time of that interview?
11.
Can you describe, or can you let us know if you offered her any benefit or reward when speaking with her for saying certain things, or?
No, I did not.
Okay. And did you actually participate using this protocol that you discussed earlier?
Yes.
And so did you ask the free recall questions?
Yes.
And was Jayla receptive to that?
Yes, she gave a lot of narrative throughout her interview.
And was she able to provide details or contextual details of what she had witnessed in terms of abuse or violence between her mother and the defendant?
Yeah, she talked about a couple of incidents, and during that she talked about her being the one that called the police and where her mother was, and the incidents that occurred inside that home.
Okay, and in terms of these contextual details that we're talking about, what are contextual details and why are they important?
So contextual details are who was there, how it felt, what was going on, what noises and things like that were happening, and so that is something that we look for so to see if a child has been coached. Generally, children that have been coached can't give those types of contextual details.
And in your opinion, was Jayla able to provide contextual details?
Yes.
Okay, so she was able to remember, events that were, or sounds that were happening, or things that were going on at that time?
Yes.
And so in your opinion, when you were interviewing her, did you observe signs of coaching? That she had been told to say specific things or anything like that?
Not that she'd been told. She did talk about a lot of information, but she would tell me when I asked her, tell me more about how you know that, and then she would say, my dad told me, or my mom told me, or my grandmother told me. So she was open with where the information came from.
Okay, so she was able to differentiate between what someone said to her had occurred and then what she actually firsthand observed?
Correct.
Was she also able to correct you at all during the interview if you said anything wrong? Or?
Yes, there were a couple incidents that she did do that, and that is also something that we look for in regards to suggestibility, especially with younger kids. If they're not correcting you, then that may show that they're more suggestible than others.
That she was able to actually provide corrections.
Correct.
And I don't think I asked this on the front end, but Jayla did disclose that she observed physical violence between her mother and the defendant, correct?
Yes, she did.
And was she able to outline at least 2 instances of that?
Yes.
All right, I don't have any further questions.
The witness?
Thank you, Judge. I was Joe. I don't want to go back in too much detail. There are a few things I wanted to talk to you about. Jayla, in her interview, you would ask maybe a small question and she would just go, right?
Yes, she was talking.
Sometimes she would go 2 or 3 different stories in one go, right?
That's correct.
And it appeared to me, I mean, and you were there, sometimes she would kind of backtrack and really kind of go from one story to the other. They were a bit interchangeable. Is that fair to say? In other words, she would start talking about one story, and she would go to another story, and then she'd start talking about something else, and then she kind of backtracked to the first story she was talking about.
I think that did happen at one point. She asked me what was the question starting with. Yes.
Right. She went on for about 10 minutes, and then she goes, oh, wait, what was the question, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So some of the things she was telling you, like you said, there were contextual clues, and there were some other things that showed that she really understood what she was talking about. But then other times, she would tell you a story, and as if she were there, and then she'd say, oh, I actually didn't see that. My brother's the one who saw that. Do you recall that?
She did talk about things, but she would state that she didn't really know what happened because she wasn't there,
Right.
or that someone had told her. Yes.
Right, yeah. She would start a story and, and saying, and she'd say, well, actually, I didn't see that, but this person told me. Is that fair?
I know that she would say that she said that word for word, or say it as if she was there. She was just telling details about an incident and would tell me that that someone told her that. But sometimes she would talk about things and she would start from the beginning. My dad told me, or my grandmother told me this.
But the bottom line, through the first half of the interview is just building rapport, right?
It was a long report, but it was, yes.
Talking about her family and things like that.
Correct.
And then when she actually starts talking about things, about half of that was just things that happened in things that happened that she saw between her mother and James Hill, right?
She did talk about things that happened between, yes.
And then she spoke about a story about James Hill bringing her a stuffed animal.
That's correct.
And she was pretty specific that he brought it to her on the night before her mother was found.
That's correct.
Right? She said that James Hill, that he had stuff all over his shirt.
She did talk about he had some stuff, but then she did state that she wasn't sure what, couldn't remember exactly what he was wearing.
Right, so she said he got stuff all over his shirt, and then, well, I don't really remember what kind of shirt he was wearing, but it was like, I think maybe it was a white shirt, or maybe he wasn't wearing a shirt at all.
That's correct.
Okay. Then he gave me a stuffed animal. I asked him why he gave it to me. He didn't answer. He just said, this is from your mom and me. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then she said, and the next morning, that's when I found out my mom was dead. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, in speaking with anybody, investigators and people like that, were you aware that that is almost physically impossible, that couldn't have happened?
I'm not aware of that could not have happened.
And she described, she went on to several other stories and described that he was in a white car. Is that right?
That's correct.
There was no question that he was in a green car.
No, she said she thought that he was in his white car.
Okay. And the mini moo that he gave her, the name was Dottie.
That's correct. That's what she said.
And it was a cat, and it was black.
That's correct. What she said.
Now tell me, just from your experience in doing this, if it is not really possible that story happened, how would she get that into her head that he brought her a stuffed animal the night that her mom died, basically?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, I mean, so she tells a story about how he brought her this thing, and she gives quite a few details, the car and things like that. If it didn't happen that way, if he did not do that the night before, how would she get a story like that into her head, that he brought her a toy or an animal the night that her mom was killed?
I can't say how she would get something in her head. Generally, our jobs are to gather the information, and then it's up to law enforcement or the other investigative parties to follow up on things, on corroborating details and things like that.
And what she told you was that her grandmother wasn't there. Her grandmother was working late.
Correct. But she told him that she was sleeping.
And that her brother wasn't there.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know if I specifically asked that if her brother was there, but I can't remember.
In fact, she said her mother had actually picked up her brother. Do you recall that?
I thought she talked about him coming back because her mom was supposed to pick her up the next day.
Right. She said her brother was with her mom, and that her mom and her brother were supposed to pick her up the next day. Is that correct?
I don't recall that.
If there's a particular place that we're talking about in the transcript or where this is, I mean, you can obviously show the witness, refresh your memory, and then also draw our attention to that.
Sure, I can do that. Do you have a copy?
I do.
Of the transcript. On page 11, it's not the last paragraph, but halfway through the second to last paragraph. And then, so August the 10th, I think August 9th, she came and picked up my brother.
And then she states that she dropped him off.
Right. And I think it was Saturday, and she was going to get me the next day. The same night, I had just got off the phone with her, and she said she's going to come, right?
Yes, so she had stated that her mom had dropped the brother back.
What's your question, counsel?
She, in effect, she said the brother wasn't there with her. Is that fair? And her explanation for where the brother was that her mother had picked her brother up.
Well, here she says that her mother picked up her brother and then dropped him off.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not follow up as to where she dropped him off.
Right. And these are, again, she kind of goes between stories. So she said her brother wasn't at home, and the only explanation she gave for why he wasn't home was because her mother had picked him up. Is that right?
I didn't follow up into that in detail. I don't recall, but if I can look back through.
Yeah. I mean,
But if we're going off of what was on page 11, I
Right.
didn't follow up as to where she had dropped the brother back off.
Yeah, it kind of starts on page 11 and it goes for the next 10 pages or so, all the way to page 20. So page 11 and 20 kind of fades in and out of that particular story. And I guess what I'm trying to, if you want to read it first, that's fine.
While she's doing that, counsel, bro. You may continue. You had a chance to refresh your memory by reading over.
I did. So, I'm sorry. On page 18, when she talks about her mom having her brother, then the next day she was supposed to get me, and then she dropped my brother back off during the day, and she asked her to pick Becky slides, and then I told her no. And then she talked about carrying a pocket knife, and then that she dropped, again, she restated that she dropped her brother off.
But on the night that the animal was brought over, she again said her brother was not there, correct?
I don't know that she ever said that her brother was not there, because she then says that 4 hours later she brought her the beanie poo, and then when I woke up the next morning, my grandma just got off work.
Okay, yeah, my grandmother just got off work, and they were crying, and that's apparently when her grandmother told her that her mother was dead.
That's correct.
And all of that theoretically, in her mind, that happened the night before her mother was found.
Correct.
Now, then on page 20 of the transcript, from there on, you're talking a lot about things that she heard from her dad. Is that correct?
I would ask her, how she knew. I asked her to tell me more about how she knew about what happened, and he would talk to her.
Right. She knew that there was a 10 involved and that she thought her mom was found alive late or something like that.
That's correct.
And you asked her how she knew about that, and then she went into a lot of detail about how the father, who I guess had spoken with her, and that's where she got a lot of the information. And some of it was previous information. In other words, her father had told her this happened prior to your mother's death. Is that fair?
Which part in particular is her?
About Papa Larry talking about the furniture moving and stuff on page 21.
Yes, so she did say that that was information that her dad had told her and that Papa Larry she talked about.
And there are several other instances of that where she, in other words, most of the rest of the interview is her telling things that she had heard from other people.
That's correct, but she would state that where the information came from.
That's all I have to say.
With direct, Kenny?
Yes, Your Honor. So Jayla was very clear on what she personally saw and then what she knew because other people told her, right?
That's correct.
All right. And also in this interview, it's a lengthy interview, and she talked about other things in her life that happened in her past or going on in her life that are completely irrelevant to this trial, literally have nothing to do with this trial.
That's correct.
Okay, so just other stuff. So it's a long interview because a lot of other things are talked about.
That's correct.
Is that common with forensic interviews? The kids talk about what kids want to talk about for a long time, and then
Yes,
okay.
the child is in control of the interview, so we do listen to anything that they talk about.
I don't have any more questions.
Recross, any?
That's all right.
Thank you. You may step down. Ms. Jones, is she released?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Thank you, ma'am. Audience with him.
Your Honor, the state calls Larry Atkins Sr.
Come on, Mr. Atkins, please, next to me, sir.
Mr. Atkins, you can pull that chair as you need to. That microphone there on your right is the one actually that we can hear you on, okay? Yes, sir. Will you raise your right hand? I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the matter before this court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Will you please state your name?
Larry Bush Atkins Jr.
And where do you currently live?
Huh?
Where do you live?
921 High House Road, Oxford, Georgia.
All right. And did you know Kelly Marshall?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you
My
know her?
daughter.
Your daughter?
Yeah. My middle daughter.
Your middle daughter? Was she living with you at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
And who all was living with you in the house at that time?
Just my mother, me, and Kelly at the time. Justin, my son, he got out.
So sometimes he was in there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know James Hill?
Yeah.
All right. Did you know him well, or just you?
I was going through Kelly.
Okay. All right. Was there a time that he was not allowed at your house?
Yeah, mom, and maybe stopped coming over there when I back over there because what went on with Kelly.
All right. Were you really aware of what all was going on between James and Kelly during the time that she was alive?
No, they always hid it from me, and I always knew after the fact, after months, weeks going by.
Okay. So Kelly never discussed that with you?
Huh?
Kelly never discussed it?
No, she wouldn't tell me stuff like that. She'd go to her friends and my mother and her sister.
Okay. The last night that you saw Kelly on August 11th, around what time was it that she came home?
Probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Maybe sometime around dinner?
Yeah.
Time were you having dinner?
Huh?
Were you having dinner that
Yeah.
night? All right. Did Kelly eat dinner that night when she came home?
Well, she was left over, yeah. Mom cooked her hamburger. I mean, there's a lot left over, but she was left over, you know, in there. Yeah.
Did she eat out with you, or did she eat somewhere else in the house?
She in her room. She went back to me in her room.
All right. Could you tell whether or not Kelly seemed intoxicated or had been drinking?
Yeah, she was drunk. She needed to go lay down and go to bed.
Okay.
She needed to go to bed.
All right. Did at some point did she get anything else to eat after she'd gotten her initial dinner?
Yes, ma'am. She came back in there and got something else. One little bit that was left after she, first time she finished off, but she took it in her room as well. I mean,
Okay, so she took the second helping or second plate back?
yeah, there wasn't nothing left over.
All right. Did you really see her again after that when she went back in her room the second time?
No, ma'am. It was about 11:30 when she went, and then I told her to go to bed, and she was in her room. That's when I seen her.
Last time you saw her. So at some point that night, did you hear anything strange out of the room?
I mean, there's some bumping around in there, it's like she's moving furniture around, but it's kind of, I mean, we wouldn't have to go check on her or something like that. Some bumping around in there.
All right, so you didn't go check on her, is that right?
No, ma'am.
All right, and then you went to bed shortly thereafter?
Yeah.
All right. The next morning, about what time did you realize that she wasn't there?
It was around 9:30, 10 o'clock when I went to get that bar of cigarette from her, and I knocked on the door, and she didn't come to the door, and I realized it was locked, but I kind of opened the door and let it jiggle, and it came up, and then that's when I realized she wasn't there, and the window was up. So
When you went in,
her phone was in the floor, and her pocket over there, so I didn't really think nothing about it, because I didn't know she just dipped out for a second, and come running right back, or, you know, just sitting waiting on her.
all right, you never saw her actually leave the house anytime that night?
No, ma'am.
Or that morning, is that correct? What time were you up that morning?
I went in there, I got up about 8 o'clock, but I went in there around 10, and I walked out on my porch, and that's when the new county sheriff came to the corner,
They notified you at that point?
and that's when I found out, that's when I found out what happened. I didn't know.
All right, I'm gonna back you up a little bit. So you said she left her phone in her pocket?
Their
or
phone was
purse?
laying on the floor.
Okay, and her purse was still there?
Yeah.
Was there anything else that seemed strange about you? You said the window was open.
Her
Anything
phone
else
was in
strange?
there.
She liked
She
her
didn't
phone?
know where her phone.
Okay. The phone, okay, sorry, not the phone. Her room was otherwise left as it normally would have looked?
Pretty much.
Outside of her window, is there a way to get in or out of her window from where her
Yeah,
bedroom
the
is?
central air unit's right there underneath the floor,
All right.
underneath her window.
So is it possible to step up on that
Oh,
in the
yeah.
window or out of the window?
Good.
And did you at some point turn her phone that was left in her room over to investigators?
No, Detective Morrison did.
Okay.
It was dead, but he matched it, come on enough to come on and go back off.
Okay, so they did take the phone.
Yes, Mr. Morrison took the phone, Ted Morrison.
All right. I don't have any further questions for you. Mr. Carter may have some.
So you recall that day pretty well then, that you think Kelly came home around 8:30, something like
Something
that?
like that.
And it was mid-August, so it's starting to get dark? Or,
Yes, we're gonna get dark.
Okay, so she was pretty drunk when she got home, and so y'all had made some hamburgers, and she got a hamburger and took it to her room.
We already ate.
Yeah. And so she got hers, took it to her room, came back out and got whatever was left, and brought it back in her room. And you didn't hear anything, you didn't hear a struggle or yelling or anything, you just heard it sounded like furniture being moved or something. It wasn't enough to alarm you,
Right.
but it was enough just to get your attention.
I figured she just knew they were messing around in her room.
And so the next morning, her door was locked. You
It
said,
was kind of ajar, but you could shake it, it'd come open.
was that just the way
It
the
was
lock
locked. It was locked.
Okay. But it was just the kind of lock that you could just jig a little bit and it would open?
Yeah.
Okay. So you came in, you noticed that her stuff, her phone and everything was in there, and the window was open.
Yeah.
Now the window...
Screen was down beside the AC unit.
Okay. So her window, will, it's pretty high up, right? From the outside.
7 foot.
Yeah, it's like 7 feet from the outside. It's not like you couldn't just step right out the window into the ground.
No.
But there's an air conditioning unit right below there, so you could I guess, kind of let
It's
you.
about 4 foot off, about 3 foot off the ground.
Okay, so you just step off of out the window, step on the air conditioning unit
Yeah.
and get out. So probably 3 or 4 feet to the air conditioner unit and then 3 or 4 feet down from the air conditioner.
Yeah.
unit, something like that.
No, it's about, if you hang out the window, you can touch the unit when you tip your toes.
Oh, okay,
So then you're like 3 foot from the ground. If you jump out the window, then it's been a problem.
okay, all right. All right. Now you have some dogs, right? Or you did have some dogs like that?
My mother got one and I got one.
Okay, what kind of dogs were they?
I'm a terrier and hers is like a Pekingese dog.
Okay. And they used to make a lot of noise sometimes when they
Yeah,
go.
they walk usually when somebody comes up over, yeah.
Like if somebody were to drive up or somebody were to walk up, they make some noise?
Not necessarily. If you don't let the motion light come on outside, they won't ever bark.
Okay.
Once Bubba sees that light come on, he'll bark.
Okay. And the motion light was near Kelly's window,
No, it's on the back side of the house, on the far side.
and hers was on the left side of the house?
Her room is on the back side of the house from the carport. But if you walk on the back side of the carport, they'll make light. There's ways to walk around that motion light that make it come on.
Okay. All right, so if the dogs would have heard somebody outside,
If it hurt somebody, they'd bark.
they'd bark. If
it's
they
seen
saw
that
that
light
motion
come
light go on, they would have barked. Okay. Now, there was a bottle, empty bottle of Jack Daniels below her window.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
think
know-
Evan Williams.
Okay, whiskey, bourbon, something.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how long that bottle had been there?
No, sir.
All right. Wasn't necessarily put there that night. It could have been there longer.
No, it was, I mean, they were out there drinking like a week or so before, and I didn't say anything to her, but I assumed that's where it came from.
Okay. When you say they, you talk about Jim came over.
They're drinking.
He wasn't
They
really
weren't supposed to be there.
He wasn't
Yeah.
really
They
supposed to be
broke my
there.
pants and I had to fix that, but I didn't say anything because Kelly was happy and I figured they just been made up or whatever. Or,
So he would, even though he wasn't supposed to be there, he'd come to the window, she'd
yeah, I just
come
happened to pass
out.
him out there. I didn't get on for running him or nothing.
So there's a good chance that that bottle of liquor, the empty bottle of liquor, might have been from the week earlier, or so.
Yeah.
All right, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Read your beginning.
Just a couple questions. So you said the window was open when you came into the bedroom?
When I came in the bedroom, it was open, and the screen was down beside the air conditioning unit.
Okay, so the screen, had the screen been, was the screen longer down in the air conditioning unit?
No.
Okay. And if Kelly wanted to leave, she could walk out the front door, is that? Kelly's able to walk out the front door. if she
Oh, yeah,
wants
she's
to.
pretty good. She can do what she wants there.
Okay. And did y'all know, it was summertime, so did y'all keep the windows open a good bit during the summer?
Well, I mean, it was hot. It'd get hot during the day, but at night it wasn't that hot. You know, it's like, you know, kind of like, during the day, I mean, we didn't, my mother don't cut the air down that far. It'd get hot. She'd get hot in there messing around with her. She'd get sweated a lot. And she'd get hot. She'd open up the window.
Okay. And you said it's possible to walk around those motion lights or those floodlights
Yeah.
without turning them on?
Yeah, you don't walk within that reach of that light, it will come on.
Okay. And that AC unit that's there, is that connected, is there like a patio area sort of close to
Yes,
that,
sir.
kind of out there where she could be socializing or hanging out kind of outside by that window?
You don't know?
Is there a place out there like a patio area kind of close
No,
to
I'm
there?
not.
Where
It's,
is that?
the back porch kind of meets the house up there, the unit's right here, and I got a lawnmower that they were sitting there hanging out on, sitting there on. You can sit on the unit itself.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
ground where you can actually sit on it and step on it to get
You
into
can
the
right sit
window.
on, yeah.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Read Cross.
I do have one more, sorry. You said Investigator Morrison took her phone. When did you talk to him?
He come in when he come a little bit later than after the sheriff that was with the coroner got there. They would have stood there long enough for Morrison to come in. When Morrison come in, the phone was given to him.
Okay. So this was the day that she was found?
Yes.
Okay. So the coroner and the sheriff came over and they talked to y'all.
Yeah.
And then Investigator Morrison came over and they gave him the phone, basically.
He was on his way.
Okay.
He was sent to visit the lead detective on that at the time. He was on the way, he just ain't got there yet.
Okay.
But I went in there and found the phone when I walked in, it was dead. But he cut it on.
So, and this is the day that she was found, right?
Right.
And you told them that her phone was still there and that her phone was,
I
she was
gave him
never
the
without her
phone.
phone.
I gave him the phone.
And you told them that she never went anywhere without her phone.
Yeah.
And you talked about the screen being missing and the window being open.
They seen all that.
Huh? Okay.
They seen all
All
that.
right, and they knew about the screen being down there on the bed.
I knew the screen was supposed to be on there. I'd seen where it was at, but I knew she went out the window. Or something, that's how she got out, but.
Anybody come over and take pictures of the house? Did anybody come over and take pictures of the house?
I don't know if I did or not.
Did a crime scene person come over, so Mickey Kitchens or anybody come over and take any prints or do anything like that?
Wilson's are one that I know of now.
That's all that thing.
Anything else, Lieutenant?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down. Call the next witness.
The state calls Janet Harber.
I'm sure.
That's short.
That's what I.
Okay, there, yes.
Oh,
We were safe.
all right. That's right. Ms. Harper, next to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe a little step up now. Be careful. Take your time.
Ms. Harper, if you need to pull the chair up, you can. That microphone that's there on the right, the little one, is the one that we can hear you on, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand? I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And will you state your name for the court?
Janet M. Harper,
And Ms. Harper, did you know Kelly Marshall,
my granddaughter.
your granddaughter? And did Kelly live with you at the time that she died?
Yes, ma'am.
About how long has she been living with you?
A little over a year, I think.
All right. And who all lived in that house with you?
Her daddy and her, and her brother came when he got out. When he come, he was in there some. So.
Okay, so her brother Justin?
Yes.
All right. Did Kelly work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work did she do?
She was, at first they worked at a hotel, then she got a job waiting tables at a place up on Salem Road.
All right.
Excuse my folks.
Now, you're fine. You're fine. Did you know the defendant, Mr. James Hill? Did you know Mr. Hill?
Met him.
You met him. You didn't know him well?
You know, when she met him, I mean, she brought him to the house. So.
Okay. Was there a period of time that he was allowed to be at your house?
Yeah.
Like in the beginning?
Yes.
All right. Was there a period of time that you told him he could not be at the house anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And about how long before she died was that, do you think?
I'd say within a month, I guess. I can't really remember just exactly how long.
That's all right. All right. And why did you tell him he couldn't be at the house anymore?
Because he hit her.
Were you the one that took her to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a couple weeks before she died, is that correct? All right, and when you took her, did you see any injuries, any
I
marks
saw,
on her?
yes, ma'am.
What did you see on her?
Bruises all over her body, different places.
Different places. Can you tell us kind of some of the places you saw them?
Her arms, maybe neck, I can't find. Oh my God.
That's okay.
She was hurting. That's the only reason we went. She finally decided she needed to go.
So she was in pain.
Yes.
Do you have floodlights out by your house?
Yes, automatic sensor lights.
Automatic sensor lights, okay. Can you walk around those lights without turning them on?
Unless you know how far out to go.
That's right. So they're basically how close in you are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. On the last night that she was there, that you saw her, do you remember about what time she came home, or kind of it was dark or light?
It was early evening. It was still light.
All right. Had you already had dinner?
I had cooked hamburgers, yes.
All right. And did she eat when she came home?
She got a plate and went to her room.
All right. Did she later on get any more food?
Come back for another hamburger, which was very unusual.
Why was that unusual for Kelly?
It's more than she eats.
All right. Did she appear to you to be intoxicated at all?
Oh, yeah, a little bit tipsy.
Tipsy, all right. And at some point that night, later on, before you went to bed, did you hear any kind of sounds coming from her room?
Yes, ma'am. I heard loud bumping noises coming from the back of the house, and I should have got up, but I didn't.
Okay, so you didn't go check on her?
No.
All right. And my understanding is you have dogs, is that right?
Yes, 3 at the time, and not one of them barked.
All right. Was this that evening before you went to bed, was that when she went in her room, was that the last time you'd ever saw her again? Okay. The next morning, were her things still in her room?
Yes, ma'am. Well, her phone,
Her phone was in her room?
and her pocketbook.
Was that unusual?
Yes.
And why was that unusual?
Because that pocketbook was like a satchel. Everything the one she owned was about was in it, and she didn't go anywhere without that phone.
When you took Kelly to the hospital, you talked about when she had the bruises on her. Did she tell you who had done that to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was that?
Johnny's ill.
Did she ever express to you at all about being afraid of Mr. Hill?
Of him or somebody. No, she never said I'm afraid of him. She said that night in particular she was asked me was it that. She said, "Now nobody could come in here and steal me out of my room today." And I said, "I hope not." But you know.
I don't have any further questions for you right now. Mr. Carter may have some.
Your witness?
Mr. Harper, Lee Carter, just a couple questions. You said you had 3 dogs at the time, and none of them barked?
Not going that night.
Okay, not, but those dogs bark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Shih Tzu and the Maltese, yes, they bark.
Yeah. So if they, when the floodlight came on at night, they would bark, right?
Yeah, I guess usually they do, but they didn't bark that night.
Right.
We were in
Yes,
bed.
yes, ma'am. So that night they didn't bark, but when the floodlight came on, generally they would bark. If they heard someone come to the door, if they heard a car drive up, they would bark, right? They let you know it. And you didn't hear any dogs barking that night. The window to Kelly's bedroom, it's from the outside, it's pretty high up, right?
Yes.
But there's an air conditioning unit right there below. Okay. When you say you heard noise, you heard some bumping around. I think your son said it sounded maybe like moving furniture.
Yes, it did.
Is that kind of what you
sounded like?
Okay. So you heard it, but it didn't necessarily alarm you that something bad was going on?
No, because the dogs didn't bark.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. That's all.
Any other questions of her?
Yes, Your Honor. Did your dogs bark when you heard that noise, that bumping noise in the room? They didn't bark
That's the reason I
then?
didn't get up and go look.
So they didn't bark then? And had Mr. Hill, before you banned him from the house, had Mr. Hill been in your house before? So he had met you and her father, he had seen met the dogs?
Yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Man, those dogs barked at Jake's when he came to the house, didn't they?
Well, before they get to know you, they do.
Right. And if they didn't know who was coming to the door, somebody just came around the house and they didn't know who it was at first. They barked.
Yes, they would.
They figured out who knew him. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
They bark at people going down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else of her?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Is she excused?
For the sake of.
Okay.
All right, you release, ma'am. You can remain in the room or you can leave. We're going to take that after the break. Thank you for the patience to do that. Please don't talk about the matter. Let's just take 15 minutes. Anything? Do you take up? I'm very nice. Thank you, guys. All right, you see the call next week.
State calls Mickey Kitchens. The testimony you'll provide in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Would you state and spell your name, please?
My name is Mickey Kitchens. It's Mickey Kitchens.
How are you employed?
Newton County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked with the Sheriff's Office?
29 years.
What have been your different jobs in the Sheriff's Office?
I've worked everything from the detention center to patrol to narcotics, investigations, crimes against children. I'm currently in charge of the crime scene evidence unit as well as the major felony unit.
And how long have you been in charge of the crime scene evidence unit?
I was in charge of the crime scene evidence unit since 2008.
And what's your official, I guess now you also are an investigator with the major felony unit, but what's your title in regards to your position in charge of the crime scene unit?
I'm the corporal in charge.
And then people refer to you as the evidence tech?
Also, yes.
And do you have to undergo any training that allows you to test evidence and collect evidence in this capacity?
As far as the crime scene, yes, there is. There's several different classes that the state of Georgia requires you to complete before you can obtain your crime scene certification. Those classes include the crime scene class itself, photography, fingerprint and development, identification and classification, as well as blood spatter and several other different classes.
Includes, you said blood spatter, and you also said fingerprinting, correct?
That's correct.
And you also have the ability to sort of scan and look at objects, blankets, things like that to see if there are substances located on there?
That's correct.
You can't necessarily test them yourself. They have to be sent off for that, but you have the ability to determine what may be there.
That's correct.
Do you work with any other evidence technicians?
I do. There's actually two people that's assigned to the crime scene evidence unit. And that's investigator Christopher Bowles, who just recently started, and investigator Ginger Stabile, who has been with the unit since 2009.
Were you called to assess and collect evidence at the scene under the bridge on Mount Tabor Road back on August 11th of 2017?
I was.
Excuse me, August 12th, 2017?
I was.
Okay. What did you observe when you first arrived at that scene?
Excuse me. When I first arrived on scene, there was already several deputies and emergency personnel on location. The road patrol had already blocked off the area and was controlling access to the scene. There was a tent that was set up underneath the bridge, and off on the opposite side from the access was a female that was laying face down, I believe.
And what did you do to begin processing the scene?
As though we always start with, after a walkthrough to see what we have, we always start with photographs, just basically photographing the scene.
And what evidence, after you took all the photographs, what evidence did you actually collect?
We collected a good number of different items. We collected the tent. There were some cigarette butts that were collected. There was some flip-flops that was on location that was collected. Broken hair bow. There was several different things that was collected.
And when you're going through and collecting items, photographing them to help avoid any confusion or things like that, you put markers out sometimes?
That's correct, we did.
And what is the process like when you actually take the evidence into evidence? How do you catalog it or number it?
We try to keep the numbers in sequence along with as we write them down as items that we collect. Such as if item number 1 had been the 10th, then item number 1 on our evidence sheets would have been the 10th. That's why we try to keep everything logged in that way.
And where is it stored in the meantime?
Before transported to the sheriff's office or prior to
Well,
court?
I mean, you store it at the sheriff's office once you collect evidence.
Right.
And what is that evidence storage like at the sheriff's office?
There's only three people that's assigned to the crime scene evidence unit. Unit has access to the evidence room, and that's a keyed access only. And we're the only 3 that has the keys to that unit or to that room. And in order to get to that room, you have to go through 3 solid steel doors, which we're the only ones that has access to 2 of those doors.
And in terms of the evidence collected there, was anything ultimately sent to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for testing?
There was a good number of items that was sent to the GBI for testing.
Okay, and if you can quickly outline what those items were, or if you took swabs from certain items that were sent there?
Sure, hang on just a second here before back to the notes. There were swabs from the zippers from the tent that was sent, a broken hair bow that was sent, a pillowcase. There was clothing, flip-flops, cigarette butts, some bath towels, a cutting from a speaker.
Is that from the vehicle you processed later?
That is correct. That would have been from the vehicle that was processed later. There was also some yellow socks, a tent bag, and water bottles that was sent to the lab.
And did you check any items that you found there collected into evidence for fingerprints?
I did not know.
And was there, I guess you said you have training in fingerprint identification and things
That's
like
correct.
that. So I'm sure everyone's seen shows like CSI and everything, but in terms of actually collecting fingerprints from various items, especially ones outdoors and things like that, is that more difficult than it can appear?
It is. What leaves the prints is the oils and the waters that's naturally in your skin. When you touch an item, those oils and waters, that'll leave an impression on the item. When we process it, we use a very fine powder, which sticks to those oils or waters, and that's what develops the prints. Anything that's real dusty, anything that's like a hand tool that's designed for grip, those are not common, are not really good to get prints off of, and what prints I have been able to lift off of is not enough to make any kind of identification from those.
And have you actually done some sort of controlled testing of your own in terms of different items to try and obtain, to see what and when you would be able to obtain prints off of stuff?
We have, yes.
And that includes like a paper bag and things like that, or a plastic bag and things like that?
That's correct.
And have you been successful in attempting to get prints off of that?
On certain items, we have been successful. On other items, we have not been successful.
Successful in these controlled
Attempts, right.
All right, and you indicated that you took a bunch of photos at the scene, correct?
That is correct.
I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. First, I'm going to show you page 29. Excuse me, one second.
I mean, those are the photos I think it's seen.
And are they all fair and accurate depictions of what you observed there at that Mount Tabor scene?
There are.
I'm also showing you states 99 through 101. Do you recognize those?
But these are also photographs that were taken at the scene.
Are they also fair and accurate depictions?
They are.
Your Honor, tender states 8 through 29 and 99 through 101.
No objection. For a minute.
Okay, investigator Kitchens, I'm showing you states exhibit number 8. It's depicted here.
That is the entrance to the area down below the bridge where the body was located.
And it's sort of a long gravel road that leads down to underneath the bridge. Is
That's
that right?
correct.
And is states number 9, is that just a view that's looking down the other way? You turn around and took a picture down the rest of the gravel road?
That is correct.
All right, and I'm showing you states 10. What is depicted here?
That is the tent that was underneath the bridge.
Okay, and I'm going to draw your attention to some items that are right here in front of the tent.
Those are the flip-flops.
Were they, what color were they?
I do not remember right off.
All right, I'm going to skip and show you states 13. Is that just a closer, very close, up of the photo of the flip-flops?
They are, yes.
All right, so mostly black, it looks like.
That's correct.
And then go back and show you states exhibit 11.
That's a picture of the victim from where I was underneath the bridge, shooting back up towards I guess up towards the west side.
Show you states 14. Is that the broken airbow inside the tent?
That's correct, it is.
And I'm showing you states, 16. And that's obviously the deceased victim. When you were approaching the body, did you see any insects or bugs, things that had been on her body accumulating there?
We could. There's a large number of ants.
I'm also showing you states 18. It's depicted here.
That's just the other side of the victim, also depicting the ants that was on her arm.
And did it appear to be some bruising on her side, sort of upper back torso area?
Objection, that he's qualified to answer questions regarding bruising, whether it's post-mortem, pre-mortem, we have medical exam, we can answer those.
We will, and I'm not asking if he knows if it's post-mortem or pre-mortem, I'm just asking if he knows if it looks like a bruise on him.
You can answer. Overruled. And we asked the court, did you?
Did it appear that the victim had any bruising on her back or torso area?
There were several marks on the right side of her body that was noted.
And did you and other deputies that were there have to flip the victim over to begin removing the body and things like that, and also to further assess her condition in the scene?
We did. Normally, we do not move the body until the coroner arrives, and once he arrives and we get to a point as far as our processing, at that time, then we will roll the body, and those are photographed as we roll, just to see, make sure there's nothing underneath the body, and also to document the opposite side of the body, any injuries or anything like that is on it.
And I'm showing you, this is stage 22. Is that one, the appearance of the victim her torso once you flipped her over.
That's correct.
Showing you stage 23. Does this depict a tattoo that the victim had on her chest or upper neck area?
It does, yes.
I think that it might be hard to tell in terms of the scale there, but was that sort of like high up towards the neckline area, or where would you estimate?
It was about a little above midline, up closer to the neck.
Okay. I'm showing you stage 24. This is a depiction of her face was what you observed on her face to be that condition when you turned her over.
That's correct.
And so, yeah, I understand we'll have a medical examiner who will testify, but did it appear that she had injury present on her mouth and lower face? I mean, it does appear that
Yes, there was.
Okay, but there's blood. I'm showing you stage 26. Were there also some tags or spray paint tags that were all around the pillars underneath the bridge there?
Oh, there was, yes.
And then at stage 27, just another depiction of those different kind of tags.
That's correct.
Show you states, or did you take, when you were out there taking a bunch of pictures, did you take pictures of any tire tracks or treads or things like that that you saw there?
I did.
All right, and so I'm showing you states 99. Is that a picture of one tire track that looks like, sort of, I mean, it obviously is not, it's been a little mushed, for lack of a better word, but.
Yes, that is one that was taken at the scene.
All right, I'm showing you states 101. Is that another one?
That's correct, it is.
All right, and then I'll show you states 100. Looks like there's some worn tire tracks depicted there. Is that correct?
They're right in front of the tent, yes.
In front of the tent. Okay, it looks like some of them actually kind of drive through the tent, like the tent was put over them.
That's correct.
All right, and these tire tracks that are there, do you have any kind of training or expertise or ability to determine what kind of tires would have left tracks like that or anything along those lines?
No, ma'am, I haven't had no training in tire impressions whatsoever, so I'm not qualified to make a call, a judgment call on any type of tire treads.
Okay. And but you go to classes regularly and take the basic training courses and everything that's offered, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then has anyone in the sheriff's department had that kind of particular training?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you as an evidence tech, would you consider that to be a common training, or would that be a sort of more specific, specialized area?
That would be a more specialized training area.
And so Investigator Seville, Norn, I think you said Investigator Bowles,